Do you have this problem where you're trying to get in your truck and trying to struggle to get in your truck? Well, we have the fix for you. If you're tired of crawling in your lifted F-150 and you're looking for a great side step, these amp research side steps are what you're looking for. We all hate when we lift our trucks and then we have to climb back in, struggle to get in, and try to figure out how to get in your vehicle. So amp research made a great power step. All it is when you open that door, that power step slides down so you can climb in, close the door, comes right back up so it's out of the way and keeps the bottom of that truck clean. This kit includes the rock rails, power steps, electric motors, wiring harness, and the brackets. So let's get it installed on our 2015 F-150. First part of this install is installing these brackets onto the rock rail. Since we're working on the passenger side, we grab the right side rock rail. You'll need 5 of these carriage bolts, then slide them into the rail. Get 2 carriage bolts lined up, slide the first bracket on. What we're going to do is measure from this plate to this corner to measure 9 inches, then move on to the next bracket. Slide it down until it's at 9 inches. There we go, and we'll tighten it down. Grab a 13mm socket and then tighten them down. Just lightly snug them. Then recheck your measurement. And we're still at 9 inches. Let's move on to the next bracket. With the first bracket in place, we measure from there to 41.5 to line up the second bracket. So we'll go right to this plate, and then we'll snug it down. Just like we did for the second bracket, we're going to measure the third bracket, but it's going to 62.25. Now tighten it down. Last thing before we install the rock rail, grab your 5/16 flange bolt and nut. Do not tighten these yet. Now that you have all the brackets installed, let's get it placed on the body. Slide it onto the factory studs. There we go. Once you have the rail in place, grab the supplied M8 nuts, get them onto the body, and we'll tighten them down to 16 foot-pounds. Since we can't use a ratchet to get that nut on, we'll have to use a wrench and then lightly tighten it down. For the front bracket and the rear bracket, there are 3 nuts, 2 at the bottom and 1 high up there. Once you get them on, torque them down to 16 foot-pounds. All right, now we're back on the table. We have to install the motor onto the arm so that we can install the arm onto the rock rail. Grab your dust shield, slide it into the slot, and then let it fall. Grab the motor, extend the arm fully out, then place the motor. You might have to wiggle just a little bit to get lined up. It'll just slide right into place. And at some point, I will get it. Grab the supplied bolts, thread them in, and then torque them down to 36 inch-pounds. Repeat the same procedure on the other assembly, then we'll jump back on the rail. Grab the motor assembly and the supplied M8 bolts and slide them in and thread them in. Do not tighten these bolts down because we still have to add 1 more bolt with a spacer. Grab the supplied washer and the supplied 10mm bolt, slide it into place, and put it into the motor. Don't tighten it down. Just like the front assembly, grab your supplied spacer, the bolt, slide it into the assembly. Okay, we're about to put the step on. There's 2 nut tabs. We'll have to slide them into place to line them up with the brackets, and then we can put the bolts in. Once the nut tab slides into the bracket, now we can install the bolts. Once everything's in place, slide your bolts in. Just wiggle around a little bit to get them into the threads. Once you get both bolts in, then you can torque them down to 10 foot-pounds. Torque down the 4 8mm bolts down to 16 foot-pounds. Torque down the 10mm bolt down to 8 foot-pounds. Same for the back. Tighten these 3 bolts down to 16 foot-pounds, then you can repeat the process on the other side. Now we're under the hood. We're going to start with the wiring. We have to start by plugging in the harness into the amp research module. Push it in until you hear it click. Then plug in the second one. Once you have the connections done on the module, we're going to mount the module right here next to the battery. Grab the 2 long zip ties, and we're going to zip tie it around the battery cable. Before we connect these terminals to the battery, we're going to remove the fuse so we don't have power while we're working with it. Now you can connect it to the battery. Once you have your battery connections, we're going to take the long side of the lead and throw it across the engine bay to the driver's side. Once you have the lead stretched out across the engine bay for the driver's side, I'm going to loosen these little nuts here and then slide the wiring harness right behind this carpet just a little bit. Once you have it slid behind, you can just slide the nut tab back on. Now that we have the harness run nicely through the engine bay, we're going to take the rest of the harness, push it down the wheel well to our PowerStep on the driver's side. As you can see, I ran the wires through the wheel well. Now we can reach to our amp PowerStep motor, then run the rest of the wires down the PowerStep. Now it's going to be a little tough to show you what's going on under here because it's really tight with the camera. So I'm going to describe what we have right here. This is the plug that's going to be plugged into the motor to power the PowerSteps. These 2 purple wires will be pushed into the cab, and these are the trigger wires that will be tapping into the interior. And then left over is the black and red wires. These are the 2 LED lights that we're going to have on the front door and the back door to light up at night so you can have light on your PowerStep. And the last 2 wires, the red and black wires, positive, negative, for the LED lights to light up the PowerSteps. Now to assemble the LED light for the PowerStep, we're going to just stick on the LED light right here where it needs to go, and then we're going to show you how to install it on the rock rail. Grab the supplied grommet, push it into the hole, flip it over, slide the 2 wires through the grommet, pull it through, then peel off the 3M backing tape, and then we'll stick this piece onto the rock rail pointing down to the ground. Do the same thing for the other 3 lights. We're going to strip the little end off the wiring harness, grab the supplied butt connector, and then crimp each end on. These are heat shrink butt connectors, so we're going to heat them up so they melt into the wire. You'll have to heat these up, and you know when it's done when the oozing is coming out the ends. We're going to pull off the backing tape, and we're going to mount the bracket on the inner side of the bracket on the rock rail. Press firmly. And now you have 1 light done and 3 more to go. Now pull out the backing. Now we're going to mount the LED light in the same spot as the front on the inner side of the bracket. Press firmly, and then you're done. Okay, now for the trigger wire. Those 2 purple wires, we have to pull them through the bottom of this floor. There's a little grommet right here under the carpet. So we're going to pull this panel off, the kick panel, and then squeeze our hands under the carpet to get the wires out. So just grab right here and pop this off. Grab this and just pull a little bit. It'll pop right off. Pull on the weather strip a little bit, get that out of the way. And there we go. So once you lift the carpet up, you'll see the grommet right there. So what we're going to do is poke a hole in there, stick the 2 wires through, run the wires right across, up to the dash to the OBD2 port. Once you put a hole in it, just squeeze it, slide the wires right there and push through. Then slide all the way back down and push it back over the hole. Now we're going to run these 2 purple wires right down the side of this carpet, down the kick panel, put the kick panel back on, and grab our OBD2 cable. Now how AMP triggers the PowerSteps to work when you open the door is using the OBD2 port. What we're going to do is we're going to just connect these 2 wires to their harness, then plug it into the OBD2 port to make it all work. They have 2 wires. One's purple with black stripe. And purple and black stripe goes to purple and black stripe. Purple goes to purple. What they do is they give us 2 connections. What you do is you unscrew it, slide the one end in. It'll push it just a little bit in. And then what you do is you just screw it back on. It's forcing the wire onto a terminal. Just like a butt connector, but with screwing on. And then you take that same side, so we have just a purple wire. We're going to take that purple wire and tap it into this side. Strip a little off, then unscrew the other end, slide the cap in, and then screw it back on while forcing the wire in. You'll have a nice connection like this. Give it a little pull, make sure it's a good connection, and then do the same thing for the purple and black wire. Once you have your connections done, we're going to plug it into the OBD2 port. Then put our panels back on while tucking the wire away. Plug your door sill back in. Once you have finished all the connections in the interior, jump onto the passenger side, plug in the motor and the 2 other LEDs, plug your fuse back in, then your installation is complete. Okay everyone, now after a couple hours, you have PowerSteps. You can get in your lifted truck, nice and easy, nice and strong. Then you close the door, a couple seconds, and they go right back up. For this amp, PowerSteps, and many other great parts, go to cjponyparts.com.